It's been far too long since I've last seen this Zerg player compete in StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today are a bunch of best of 3 series that she recently played in the Wardy TV Championship. So spotting right here in the top left-hand corner, in our first best of 3, playing with the red Zerg pieces, we're looking inside of the main base of Scarlett. Always one of the most popular StarCraft 2 players out there, but I know she's been very busy working on, I believe, Zero Space is last time I heard, so she's been working on another RTS game, and hopefully all is going well, but it's nice to see that she's still participating in some StarCraft tournaments from time to time. Her opponent, though, spawning right here in the opposite corner of the map, playing in blue from South Korea, we're looking inside of the main base of Ryung. Now, Ryung is immediately going to be a massive skill check. While Ryung is not really considered to be like the #1 Terran from Korea, he's been consistently good for many, many, many years. And I honestly don't know how much Scarlett has been practicing lately. Like, when she's practicing, she's extremely good. But maybe she got invited by Wardy for this particular tournament, right? She got invited by Wardy and she decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? I'm not entirely sure what Scarlett we're going to get here, because StarCraft is a brutal game. I feel like when I don't play for even just a couple of weeks, my MMR drops down very, very rapidly. And obviously, if you're going up against, well, active competitors, especially fellow pro gamers, yeah, they're not going to be taking a break all too often. And most of the time, when pro gamers participate in tournaments, they intend on being able to take the entire tournament down. Now, this is, I believe, a roughly $7,500 event. So a significant amount of money up for grabs. This is from the group stages, though, so still the earlier stages of the tournament. I believe they started with some group stages and then moved on to a double elimination format, which has been gaining a lot of traction as of late. Either way, Ryung opening right now with a good old command center first. We are on Tato Citadel. It's a pretty large map. Apparently not too afraid of Scarlett rushing links straight across, although some of them are coming right now. The main takeaway right now for Scarlett at this point in time is that, well, normally the Reaper will already be moving out, right? So it would pass by the Overlord here at about 2 minutes, 2:10, depending on the early game of Pro or of the Terran here, but obviously in this particular situation, the Reaper didn't spawn until about 2.5 minutes in. So it's a scoutless opener from Ryung, leaving the Reaper at home as well. Command center first. I like it. The last few times I did see Ryung play, he was focusing on a very macro-heavy style. Almost like a turtle-esque style, I guess, which does seem to be pretty darn good right now for Terran against Zerg, especially because of the changes that they've made to the Ghost. It's just a bit easier to do than it was on the previous patch. And I don't actually know if I've seen Scarlett play on this patch yet at all, even though it's a good couple months old at this point. Maybe right when the patch went live? There's a chance that I did see a few of her games, but there certainly haven't been a lot of Scarlett replays floating around on the internet. Okay, well, it's going to be a triple command center opener here into a 1-1-1. What I would kind of like to see from Ryung here, and I honestly don't think that's going to be happening, but I would kind of like to see just a straight 8 Rex. We see a lot of 8 Rexes right now on the European server especially, where you basically rush out 3 command centers, you get those bases mining as quickly as possible, and then you pump out a stupid amount of Marines and you go all in with it. An 8 Rex push is extremely scary, especially when you get away with a command center first, and then even a very fast 3rd base on the back of it too. The norm is to just go into a 4th base, especially at the professional level, right? The Koreans most of the time will be going into a 4th command center with a 2nd factory and all the rest of it, but I wouldn't mind seeing a good old 8 Rex here from Ryung, just to see where Scarlett is currently at. Because it's a big skill check. If you make any slip-ups at all as the Zerg, you can just straight up lose to a push like it. Hellion Banshee here for the time being. 2nd and 3rd Rex coming up right now. In the meantime, though, the Canadian Zerg player is indeed adding on more and more drones. Overlord positioning is looking good. Creep spread, I mean, that's been one of her specialities for as long as I've been watching StarCraft, so as long as she's been competing. Must have been maybe 2010, 2011 or so that I first saw Scarlett play. Anyhow, creep spread is always something that she's been a very, very big well, some people would call it abuser off. A lot of Terran players really don't like playing against the mass creep spread, but it's an incredibly powerful mechanic. The main issue, of course, the main bottleneck will be APM. Because technically speaking, this creep tumor right over here could already move forward again. And, well, the sky really is the limit. Nobody's perfect with it. What is nice over here, though, is that the Banshee and those Hellions are going to be working together. Okay, 2 Queens end up dying already. We did have 2 Hellions going down in total, too, but this is not a bad start here for Ryung. Ryung clearly respecting her enough to not go after the mineral line. So the mineral line is very likely already covered. Spore Crawler right now on top of the high ground. Need to back off immediately. But this was really good work by Ryung, who's going to try and work on the hatchery itself next. I highly doubt that the hatch will die. Still enough creep here to move that Spore Crawler down to the low ground. And with the lair finished, we can go into an Overseer Cocoon as well for a little bit of mobile detection. But with an opener like this, Ryung doesn't really need to worry about a whole lot of, well, actual eco damage. He doesn't really need to worry about killing the drones themselves. Already, so many SCVs are out. Still, though, we have a Hydroden on the back of this. We have Baneling speed coming up, too. We have 1-1 researching inside of the main base. All of this points to Scarlet at least feeling comfortable enough to play the macro game. Obviously, it's what's Ryung... Yeah, Ryung is known for it, right? So she seems to be just fighting it head on. Already going north of 90 workers here. Not bad whatsoever. By the way, did we go for an 8 Rex? Hey, we are going for an 8 Rex. Very nice. So no 4th command center, no 2nd factory. We are gonna go for a very powerful attack with just an insane amount of marine production. Ryung not even going for the add-ons here. That usually indicates a lot of urgency. Usually that means that you want to go for the push here ASAP. So 11 marines on the production tab at any given moment. We have the armory as well for +2/+2. 1-1 is just about to finish. But indeed, the bio army is going to start marching across the map. And this is scary. We're going to see a lot of units move out. And the idea for Ryung is to effectively win with this attack. Now, there's already, man, a lot of creep here. The creep is honestly so annoying to deal with. Because look how far Ryung has to, like, start this push from, right? Like, any delay right here is beneficial for the Zerg. Because Scarlett is sitting at 85 workers at this point. Or 86 workers, even. She's making a whole lot of overlords and just preparing for what will likely be a fight to the death. Now, you can go for a 4th command center in the end here, too. But Ryung, as you can tell here, by the production tab, is not doing anything other than unit production. Siege tanks are being leapfrogged forward. I wouldn't mind seeing another scan over there to try and get rid of some of those tumors, but Baneling speed is scary. With good micro, though, you can nullify a lot of this aggression. The siege tank positioning is good. Lincolns and Banes, though, coming in from the back. Scarlet decides to pull the trigger, and is there enough? There is, indeed, just barely. There are reinforcing marines showing up. We don't have new Banelings morphing in, and you know what? That could actually be problematic. Normally, the rule for Banelings is to make a bunch of new ones as you're just about to use the first batch. Okay, looks like the Queens and the Hydras will be able... Look at that guy. Buying a bunch of time here to get the Banelings restarted once more. That was a lot of losses on the side of Ryung, but nothing too terrible. Siege tanks going down is probably the worst. Okay. The creep is still moving, by the way. I really like how Scarlet is always so focused on getting that creep around the map ASAP. Drone transfer moving on over. That is just from the main base. Engaging off creep is scary, but there's only a little portion of this fight that is really taking place off creep. Okay, nice splits there by Ryung, but does he have the numbers? No. Ryung, by the way, has already committed to a 4th command center now, too. One really nice advantage, though, that the Terran still has going are these upgrades. So because Scarlet was so focused on the defense, she never fired up the 2-2. Yeah, now she starts up additional... Oh, Evo Chamber upgrades right there. She's also trying to sneak out a base in the far bottom left over at the Golden Minerals, but Ryung certainly still has a scary timing attack in him, especially when these upgrades are both done. It's a little unfortunate. He went for the armor upgrade first. Doesn't make a lot of sense, actually, against this type of unit composition, but maybe he went to school together with Björn, you know? Björn loves doing this as well. There's like a half-minute delay on the two. Okay, this could be good. Ryung hasn't seen the gold base, but he can smell them. Immediate stim. And that is going to be a dead base. Okay. Counterattack over here too. Can we target the Baneling? No need apparently, because we just pick up and leave. I don't think Ryung can be too upset about the situation, but this is when usually a lot of the pressure gets taken off of the Zerg player. And immediately, when that happens, look at the creep moving around yet again. There's now even enough creep to practically reach the far bottom left. Yeah, if you don't pay attention to the minimap for a little bit, there's a chance that it's just going to be completely gooped up. Fourth Command Center finding it difficult to turn itself into a planetary fortress. Scarlet actually decides to pull the trigger yet again. This is pure Hydraling Bane, by the way. No lurkers, no ultras, none of those fancy units. Although a hive is coming up right now. We have another little hit squad over here too, but not achieving too much. 10 SCVs already dead. It looks very oppressive. We have a bunch of infestors now added into the mix too, so fungal growth certainly can be nice. And I guess the new plan here for Scarlet is just to sort of keep this Terran on 3 bases? Two just about to finish up. Macro hatchery as well. Adrenal glands will probably be fired up momentarily. Widowmine, okay, good one. Burrowed Baneling as well, though, left behind. Another follow-up push maybe on the right side of the map. At least it's within range of the vision tower. Wait, so I haven't seen Scarlet play in a while. And she is going full macro and completely toe-to-toe against somebody of Ryung's caliber? Not too shabby. A very classical game here, though, for the most part. This is how ZVT is usually played. Or at least it used to be played like this for many, many years. Men with gun going up against loads of bugs. My main problem right here, though, for the Terran is that there aren't a whole lot of resources coming in. Yeah, so the main is drying up, the natural's drying up. Obviously, the third base was super quick as well, so you can already see a bunch of those mineral fields disappearing. So Scarlet is still moving through big fungal growths as well. Did she just absolutely destroy Ryung? Yeah, looks like it. I mean, the next minute or so is going to be do or die for Ryung. This base needs to be taken. Okay. We're going to move the old main command center on over just to get a little bit of additional mining. Gold base is going to be acquired, though, by the Zerg. There's still a lot of Terran. The army itself is big. But this is all just very annoying. Almost 120 army supply, though. Let's see. Ooh. Fungal, yet again. Baneling's coming in as well from a very weird angle. I don't really love this, like, I guess this location for the engagement of the Zerg, but I guess if you have such superior numbers, it doesn't matter that much. But you can see that this is probably the worst fight that Scarlet could be taking here. Very little reason to be fighting off creep, maybe getting a little bit impatient. Easy for us to say, though, because obviously there's a lot of things that you have to manage while playing a game of StarCraft, but yeah, when you've had the eco advantage for sure, for such a long time, and obviously you can never really know exactly how many workers there are. Nice retargeting with the mines, though. Ooh. Gets pretty much all of the Hydras. Yeah, and never count the Korean Terran players out. They are dangerous. Overconfidence is a slow but insidious killer. Maybe it's time for another run of the Darkest Dungeon. Now the fourth base is secured. And we have a little bit of mule mining, too. For the first time in about 10 minutes, Ryung is going to be able to, at the very least, even the odds as far as income goes. All it takes is a mineral line full of mules. If we look at the resources lost, this is the main difference right now. So Scarlet basically just throwing away units left, right, and center. And even though we have had an income advantage for such a long time, This is why Ryung is still able to go toe-to-toe. The fights have just all been very beneficial. Honestly, if we're like gonna see if we ooh. Ah, there you guys are literally okay. Standing on banelings. Probably the worst spot to idle, lads. I'm sorry. But if the Terran can now secure the gold mineral line, I think Ryung is back in this. Instead, what we've got though is the good old natural expansion moving forward too. So Ryung presenting the Terran here as a ooh, that's another misplay from the Zerg. But he's treating the Terran here as a nomadic species. We have 3 command centers and we fly them on over whenever a new mineral line needs to be taken. Lurker Den now coming up. More upgrades also coming in. Literal minefield here. Yeah. You can tell that Ryung is very confident playing the slower, more defensive game. He started this off with some aggression. The aggression didn't really work, but I am liking the way that he's playing this defensively. Big counterattack again on the right. Base on the low ground is going to be spotted as well right now by the Zerg. More and more banelings trying to break through. Hatchery in the far bottom left in a little bit of trouble. Looks like we're going to throw even more units at the problem. Good splits right here, though, by Ryung. Mitigating a very high amount of damage. And now he's going to be able to indeed force the council on that base. Defend the mineral line over at the third, or at least what's left over of it. My only concern for the Terran, though, is just the amount of command centers that there are. Normally, like 17 minutes into the game, you expect to have about a dozen. And Ryung has 3. He made a 4th. It died. And since then, we've been effectively all in the entire way through while being the defensive player, which is just all a little bit odd. I think going lurkers actually makes a lot of sense. When the Terran has a bad economy, or at least nothing really too spectacular, right? You can keep going with this unit composition. But it almost feels to me like going for lurkers here, or even ultras, would be effectively the nail in the coffin. Scarlet also has 1 million gas. I wouldn't mind seeing about 30 lurkers being made here, because what in the world is Ryung going to do? He can't afford ghosts. Like, we have a ghost academy. Fair enough. He actually built it smack that in the middle where the natural used to be. But there's really no income here for the Terran to be able to afford ghosts. Lurkers are coming. There's 17 of them in total. Ryung hasn't scanned them just yet. Nidus Worm inside of the main base too. Fungal growth yet again to try and slow down the advancement of this army. Third base right now also moves on over. We really are just treating the Terran structures as buildings that can easily move around. I mean, that's how they were once designed, right? But anyways, right now, the Terran will see that the lurkers are out, and this becomes a problem. At least the Nidus in the main base got denied. But there's more lurkers coming. We're going to go up to 25 lurkers. There are soon going to be more lurkers than there are marauders. And that's when you know things are getting a little bit problematic. Yeah. Run into the field, boys! I mean, this is about as good as it's ever going to be, though, for Terran. One big problem, too, actually, that I didn't even really consider yet, is that Terran will not have a lot of scans available. Normally, when you're fighting 25 lurkers, you're gonna have, like, half a dozen command centers minimum, right? So you're gonna have a lot of scans. Ryung only has 3 bases, and he's been using them for mule mining. Oh, I think he's gonna run out of energy. He needs to land this CC to get 1 more scan off. There we go. Okay. Gotta hand it to Ryung, though. Ryung is honestly making a very good use of the tools that he's been given. It's a ridiculous amount of resources, though, lost. On the side of the Zerg in particular. This base is gonna get denied, too. Even the 4th is drying up. Yeah, Ryung is being extremely resilient, but I just don't see a way out of this for him. He effectively now needs to max out on ghosts. And there's just no money for any of it. Now even this base in the middle is going to get blocked by creep. Nidus worms do emit a little bit of creep around themselves. Actually, quite a lot. Base in the far bottom left is going to get denied yet again. Drones are waiting for a little tunnel to go around the map a little bit more confidently. Apparently, you guys maybe should have just moved in a little quicker. Eh? You know what? If we see this often enough, Ryung will get back into this. Scarlet is just not caring about... Like, this is one of those, you know, those news articles when you hear somebody that, like, won the lotto and they won, like, $69 million and for some reason they're broke after 2 years, right? Like, we may very well be seeing one of those situations for the Zerg, where Scarlet technically can't lose this game. She's technically won the lottery. But also, there is very little thought about the future here. Oh god, we're just running through all of the things. I never know how that happens though. It doesn't make any sense to me. People that earn a ridiculous amount of money win the lottery and then they somehow are broke again after just a handful of years. Maybe I'm just a boring person and I have very little things I would like to buy. If I were to buy the lotto, I don't know, man. What would I even change? Not sure. Scarlet is actually, in a very weird way, almost broke. Like, the gas that she has at this point is embarrassingly, it's really quite bad. She had like 3,000 gas a little bit ago and no minerals, and now we have all the minerals and no gas. Zerglings are not really going to cut it. Base in the bottom left, by the way, gets denied for about, I think, the 7th time. Marauders in the main base. Oh, now we're gonna... Okay. Sure. This is the nomadic Terran. This is how humans lived for many years. Just follow the food. I kind of love it, though. It's very different than what Ryung wanted to do, but... Our goats and our sheep are going in the direction of the grass, so I guess we follow the goats. That's effectively what we're doing here. It's a beautiful thing, really. Blinding cloud in the middle of the map, and Ryung, yeah, he just cannot sustain this. In a weird way, I like what Ryung did in this game better than what Scarlet did, but Scarlet just had such a massive economy that it didn't matter in the end. GG. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on the map a White Rabbit. Sick game, though. And I think at the very least it answers the question. Yes, Scarlet is still playing. You don't play a game like that against maybe like a top 5 Terran on the planet when you aren't comfortable, right? Like, it's not the type of style that you go for if you feel like you need to get lucky in order to win. Hedge gas pool again, I suspect here from Scarlet, although she does have an option, I guess, to go for some sort of aggression. We have been seeing a lot more aggression in general from Zerg players lately, but not so much in this matchup. I guess one of the issues that Zergs run into is that most of the standard builds from Terran, they, well, get countered by... sorry, the Zerg aggression gets countered by the standard builds from the Terran, so I'm suspecting this is gonna just be like a triple command center 1-1-1 opener here from Ryung. I think it makes the most sense, but let's not forget that most of the time Ryung is the one that comes up with the strategies, and then Maru is the one that takes them and actually wins the tournaments. I noticed in the last few casts that I've been doing, I'm turning more and more Dutch. Yeah, I'm just no longer beating around the bush, man. We're no longer being polite. I'm not exactly sure where Ryung would rank right now. There are quite a few really strong Terrans out there. Maybe top 5, maybe top 10. But certainly amongst the higher ranks of StarCraft 2. And I really don't know where Scarlet would currently rank in that department. Would she be a top 5 Zerg? No. Top 10? Maybe. Hard to say. We'd need to see more matches. Anyhow, Hedgegas pool indeed. Double Queen starts up immediately. 4 Zerglings as well in total. Reaper is going to head on across the map. Even though there was no SCV leading this, and technically it's a little bit risky. Ah, we're gonna go... Okay, yeah, we are gonna go for the triple command center opener, but it's the one before the factory. And you know what? I just mentioned it. This is what Maru has been playing an awful lot. So, Maru and Ryung seem to be very good friends. They're always hanging out together. But Maru is just a faster and more refined Terran across the board. And it's not really me being disrespectful. It's just the stats, right? If you look at the numbers over the years, Maru is just simply the more successful player. But usually it's Ryung that seems to come up with the builds. He's obviously executing them themselves as well. But then Maru takes those and actually lifts them up to another level. So we have a triple command center, yeah, triple barracks build. And I hadn't really seen this strategy very much. Only really from Maru, but it makes sense to see it right now as well from Ryung. Maybe this time around it's different. Who knows? Maybe it's Maru that came up with this one. Anyway. Reaper is going to be forced to go back home. This has technically been a little bit risky here from Ryung, because there was no SCV scout, and if you do this build against literally any sort of Zerg aggression, you will just straight up die. So, for example, right, I just mentioned that we don't really see Zergs going for a lot of Roach aggression. We don't really see a lot of Zerg all-ins in the early game, and that's because Hellion Banshee is extremely good against that type of style. You can basically just counter it, not necessarily easily, but you can counter it if you micro really well. Now, this right over here is a build order from Terran that is so greedy that literally any type of early game aggression from Zerg would overwhelm it. But because the norm for Terran is to be safe against this sort of thing, Zerg players feel like they can't go for early game aggression, so therefore you can cut a massive corner and be even greedier. It's a weird bit of logic, but it is how StarCraft generally works. So triple command center, straight double upgrades. It's a beautiful thing. Okay. Now, is Scarlett aware of this build? This will be a much more significant skill check for her, because this is a relatively new style. We've only really been seeing this for a few months. And I think it's mostly a Korean thing. I don't recall any of the Europeans playing this style, although I'm sure they are giving it a shot as well. But it's very good, especially in series. I don't think this is a great ladder build, but in a best of 5, a best of 3, yeah, makes a lot of sense to go ahead and mix it in. Now, the way you can fight this as a Zerg is with greed. So when you see your opponent playing with greed, you can counter them as a Zerg by being even more greedy. Roach Warren coming up right now together with a lair. First group of Marines is already marching. It's really just to keep the Zerg player honest. This is obviously not a group of Marines that's really meant to do anything, but the cheeky little Zergling there scouts the group of Marines in the middle of the map. Ryung knows he's been spotted, decides to go back home. Ling production has already kicked in, but obviously that's the main goal here for the Terran. Any 2 Zerglings could have been a drone, so any delay is good. Pretty quick lair, by the way, from Scarlet. A lot of Zerg players lately have been very fond of going for a quick lair into like a Spire. Shin seems to be doing that in the majority of his games. Not know what Scarlet is going for. We have double upgrades here, and then I guess Roach speed as soon as the lair is done. Which is right now. Yeah. It's a classic approach. Double upgrades, Roach speed. 3 base saturation, and then you make a whole lot of boys. Cheeky little Zergling counterattack though, may as well. They were forced out, may as well get a bit of value. 2-2 upgrades have already started up though for Ryung. Ridiculously early, considering the timing of this base. Yeah, it's a good build. I like this build a lot. I also like how aesthetically this base is laid out. It's something that nobody ever discusses, but I like it whenever the Terran structures are in straight lines, although I will say that probably all of this should have been shifted over 2 squares. So we can, you know... Oh, yes, Ryung! Do it for the fans! It's me. I'm the fans. It's beautiful, eh? Alright. In the meantime, we're clearing out a little bit of that creep in the middle of the map. Bailing Nest now on the back of this. Roaches are indeed now being produced. They're gonna get a very large power spike. Double upgrades, and then also, of course, the speed. It does mean that you can actually move across the map and potentially go back home with the Roaches if you don't have the speed upgrade. Usually it turns into a one-way trip. Hive right now too, though, so Scarlet is actually just sort of waiting for the Terran to do whatever he pleases. Now, I think what we're going to see here from Ryung is an all-out assault with these upgrades finishing yet again. Just like in the previous game, we're trying to line up any sort of aggression with upgrades finishing up. Because right now, it doesn't make sense to fight. If you fight right now, well, Zerg has just finished their 1-1, right? He's been finished with 1-1 for a long time. So we do a little bit of dropping, but there's enough room inside of these medevacs to bring the troops back home. Low risk, low reward, but still not, you know, nothing. 3 queens is honestly really nice. Yeah, 4 queens? Okay. 4 queens for 4 marines. Not a bad trade. 4th command center, by the way, on the back of this too. And we do indeed have the 2nd factory as well. So this is all much quicker than what we saw in the previous game. Medevac drop still continues. And this isn't really even Ryung going for a proper push yet. What's kind of ironic is that if he would have gone for like an 8x all-in now, I think it would have worked quite nicely. Now, this is still 8x, but it's an 8x with a 4th command center, so usually it's a bit more defensive. Either way, we are going to test the waters. Vipers are coming, but they're not yet done. There are, however, infestors with energy. It's a little odd to be making those already. We've been seeing that from Raynor as well, and it is awfully effective. When Terran doesn't expect that there's infestors out, they deal so much damage. Ultralisk Cavern on the back of this. +2 armor, +1 melee. Okay. 4th command center is secured. We should really be building a planetary on that. Yep, it cancels the SCV, starts up the planetary. SCVs are being transferred. Okay. Scarlet happy, though, to just play the macro game. It's not what I expected going into these games. Usually when a player, well, hasn't been seen playing too much, usually they resort to a more aggressive approach, but... Nice push here, though, from Ryung. Kills one of the hatcheries of the Zerg player. And while none of these pushes are really game-ending, Ryung is certainly in a much better spot than what we saw in the previous game. At any moment. My only concern here for the Terran is the Ultralisks. Ultras are going to hit very hard if you're not prepared for them. And we don't yet have a 2nd starport, and we also don't have a Ghost Academy or anything along those lines yet. It would be about time for a Ghost Academy now. It'd be early, though, for a 2nd starport, but some nice corrosive biles. "28 banelings. Oh, all right. Well, I guess that means that Ultras are off the table for a little while. Looks like the hatchery over here may once more take a bit of a beating. Roaches are being traded out, which is kind of nice for the Zerg, but obviously these trades are highly efficient for Terran. Push again on the right side. Fungal is nice, but the infestors die in order to try and save some of this, and I think in the end this is totally fine here for the Terran. Yeah, the fungal alone doesn't do much. Fungal into Ultras, fungal into banelings. That's the way to clean things up. 5th command center right now added into the mix. +3 has started up. We should really go into the +3 infantry armor as well. Important not to forget about it. +3, +2 in the meantime, though, for Scarlet. She is still on the clock when it comes to those upgrades. Ghost Academy here, triple command center, 2nd starport. Okay, so Ryung is going for a proper late game transition. Yeah, the splits are good. Ultras, though, are here. And these Ultras are well upgraded. Not fully upgraded by any stretch, but they can certainly deal damage. I think if Ryung keeps under pressure, loses a little bit of supply, and replaces the lost supply with Ghosts and Liberators, he's going to be A-okay. I think actually slowing this down at this point is not really too useful. Like, if there's any moment here to keep under pressure, I think it's right now. Because the worst thing that can happen is you running out of space if the Zerg goes for, like, a counterattack. If you have nowhere to stutter step, the game gets very hard. We're making so many CCs. Okay. Where's the infestors? There's only one, and it's pretty much dead. So no more fungal growth in that regard. Fungal growth into Blinding Cloud is obviously always an option, and we do have more infestors coming up. Yeah, right now the Ultras can't really cross the distance very easily, but if they can, they will absolutely destroy this Terran army. So fungal growths can be absolutely pivotal. And there are more of those bad boys available now. There's at least 3 fungals, maybe 4. Personal cloaking here for the ghosts. Liberators indeed being added into the mix. Problem for Ryung is that he's maxed. He's maxed on some mediocre units. It's one of those weird parts where you kind of want to give up some of your Marines and Marauders, but not too many of them. Sorry, lads. You're being replaced. Oh, fungal. Scarlet is looking for one. Oh, this is gonna be big. This is gonna be massive. Oi, oi, oi. This could be... Ooh, that could be massively problematic. Parasitic bombs as well right now onto the Medivacs. It's gonna immediately force a counterattack here. And actually, the Medivacs themselves die as well. Hold up right now. Ryung lost like 60 supply worth in about 10 seconds. Abduction as well onto the Liberator. Suddenly, the swarm is everywhere. Zerg is coming in on the left flank, on the right flank. Reinforcing Zerg troops are going to be here as well in a moment. We get another fungal growth. Double Spire, by the way. One of them turned into a Greater Spire, so Scarlet preparing to go into Brute Lords as well if it's a necessity. But suddenly, Ryung is up with his back against the wall. The supply just disappeared. And that's the strength of the Infestor. If only there was one way to get mobile detection as a Terran player, right? I know it's never gonna happen. At this point, I've given up hope, okay? Now, there are still a lot of orbitals. Oof. Not right-clicked onto the orbital was that mule, so that's another orbital dying. And you know what? This actually, it's just game over, I think. Because Scarlet is now going to proceed in much of the same way as she did in the previous match, where I guess the overall goal is to sort of like contain the Terran. And it's a weird contain, because obviously there's a lot of Terran out there, but I don't think that Ryung can really fight this. Scarlet can once more be extremely cost inefficient and be totally fine. That's another command center dying. And while this is a much better army here across the board, of course, for Terran than we ever had in the previous game, it's not as easy a map to defend on. There's a lot of different pathways here for the Zerg to be abusing, and Tetchery is slightly misplaced. Scarlet actually double expanding, but she's on 80 workers. Ryung is only on 42. That may be the answer to the life, the universe, and everything else, but I don't know if we'll ever learn the question. Zergling counterattack again. Yeah, so painful. Bunch of Ultras as well moving in on the left side of the map, going after the orbital command. This is putting Ryung on the clock. Do you commit or do you go home? Those are really the only options. Scanning ahead of this party this time around to make sure that there's not another fungal waiting here, burrowed underground. But fighting Ultras and Banelings on creep is always tough. There are a lot of Widow Mines though, and they are obviously... They don't care about the amount of armor that units have. Widow Mines are considered spellcasters, and any spell in StarCraft 2 will ignore armor. The problem is the movement speed of these units right now. Yeah, when the Ultras get into the battle, as we've already seen, they are incredibly powerful. And it's much easier to pull that off on creep. GG. More StarCraft? Nah, let's do another series. Spotting right here in the top right-hand corner, playing in blue. We're looking inside of the main base of Scarlet, playing some really good StarCraft. Now, this particular best of 3 is from the same group stage. This time around, her opponent is none other than Rogue. I'm impressed. Scarlet taking on Ryung and actually outplaying him. I mean, obviously, margin for error is very small. Ryung getting fungaled and losing pretty much his entire army in just a few seconds' time is, yeah, not something you ever sign up for. But that is the nature of StarCraft 2. It's a brutal game. Time to kill in StarCraft is extremely low. And while it's very fun to watch, it can be extremely brutal to play. Because sometimes you play pretty much... I mean, that was a really strong start of the game. I think like the first 12 minutes of that previous game were pretty much perfect for Ryung. But then, suddenly, well, your army dies. It's going to be a Zerg versus Zerg, of course. Generally speaking, a much more aggressive matchup, but also a matchup that we don't really see too often at the highest level. For most of the big tournaments out there, the sign-up list is... yeah, for a while it was like 75% Protoss. These days it's maybe like, if it's like a 32-player tournament, maybe like 40% of the sign-ups or so are Protoss. It's a little bit less than it used to be, but the majority of the tournament competitors still seem to be playing with the Protoss pieces, then Terran, then Zerg. So for a Zerg, or a Zerg versus Zerg to happen in a tournament, it doesn't really... It's also a matchup a lot of people actually don't really like very much, but I'm personally a big fan, so who cares? But yeah, it's not really a super common style. And I think going up against Rogue is always tough, right? Especially Rogue lately, he's been playing some solid StarCraft, although I feel like I haven't seen him participate as much over the last month or so. Maybe it's just the tournaments that I've been paying attention to. Not exactly sure. Maybe he's been taking a bit of a breather. Regardless, Rogue has been very strong throughout 2025, of course. And I don't suspect he's going to be a rollover in a match like this. Yet again, Scarlet looked good. Hatch gas pool here from the both of them. Zergling speed started up already for Rogue. Interestingly enough, oh, we go straight lair here. Scarlet has decided to go straight lair on 2 bases. We have a 3rd queen coming up in the natural expansion. This means that she's never going to get link speed anytime soon. And likewise, because of it, she will not be able to secure a 3rd. Yeah. So 3rd hatchery coming up for Rogue. He's checking out the potential 3rd base locations. There's a ling on the right. There was a ling on the left. So at this point, the Rogue will know that there is indeed no plans for a 3rd. And that means that most of the time, you're only ever going to go up against somebody playing a good old 2-base opener. Now, what's the response going to be? Apparently, we skip the Baneling Nest here and go straight Evolution Chamber. Roachwarren right now is well in the natural expansion for Scarlet. Lairdo is already pretty much done. I'm guessing this is Mutas, right? 2-base Mutas with a Roachwarren and an Evo Chamber for safety? It's really the only thing that makes sense. There it is. 3 minutes and 38 seconds on the Spire. That's fast. That's greedy. But I think it's also pretty safe. Yeah. Safe-ish. What's funny, though, is that usually you just kind of assume your opponent doesn't make the mistake. And I'm looking at this if I was Rogue. I don't know if I would spot it. I think this is an opening into the base. It might not be, though. But very likely it is. Anyhow. Rogue's going for a lair of his own. And he does start up the drone production again. And even though he's on 3 bases, what's kind of scary about all of this, right? Is that we have this potential to get more mining. But because you know your opponent is on 2 bases, they could be going for some sort of all-in. So you're kind of in need to make more units more rapidly. So only right now is when Rogue actually catches up in the worker count. And only right now is when we will see a Rogue pulling ahead. Scarlet, though, is already done with the Spire. We have, I guess, 6 Mutas here in a moment. Overlord just finished up. Yep, 6 Mutas here immediately. Now the 3rd hatchery begins. Zerglings are going to be chasing each other through the middle of the map. This is honestly a really nice little 2-base opener for Zerg. I've actually been looking for a proper 2-base opener for ZVZ. If you don't really enjoy the Ling Bane Wars, right? Like the dancing of the Zerglings and the Banelings, I think something like this is really good. Especially now that the Spire is so much quicker to build. So what's tricky here for a Rogue is that he's going to lose all map control. I don't think he's really going to lose to the mutalisks directly, but the mutas are going to kill overlords, and there will basically be no more vision out on the map. Ooh, there's also actually very little protection here in the 3rd base. Yeah, Scarlet decides to go after the drones. She must have picked up on this just now with the Zergling Scout. Queens are going to town, but this is a lot of lost workers. Okay. Yeah, and what's difficult right now, right? So let's think about this for a second. There's a few different ways that you can follow up mutas. Broadly speaking, I think you can put it in two categories. So category 1 is mass mutaling Bane. Very common. Alternative choice, though, as we do have the Zerg player in blue now committing against his army. Alternative choice is to go into, like, high tech. So very quick ultras, very quick lurkers, something along those lines. And what's difficult for Rogue is that if you lose all the vision out on the map, you can't really know which of the two versions it's going to be. So, do you make a lot of Hydras? Do you try to really focus on countering the mutalisks? Or do you instead decide to go and assume that your opponent is going to make a big tech switch, so you try to actually get across the map before lurkers can be out, before ultras can really hit you in the face? So either you play hyper defensively, or you play hyper defensively, but then at some point you have to go very aggressive. It's a weird spot to be in. You can't really know what it's going to be, unless you see a lot of reinforcing mutas. Now, Scarlet is being way more aggressive with the mutalisks than what we normally see. Queen numbers here have been dropping, though. Rogue only has 2 left over. Good enough defense, though, for Rogue in the end. 5 mutas have died thus far. 4th hatchery already coming up. Gas Geyser gets sniped. Yeah, in theory, there's a lot of units that are good against mutas. If you can get, like, I don't know, fungal growth into parasitic bomb, mutas absolutely melt. But you also don't want to overcommit to countering mutas, because then you might just fall to whatever the follow-up is going to be. Scarlet will see here that there is no gas taken in the main base, no lair yet either. So that will make it pretty apparent that this can only really be some sort of Roach Hydra build from Rogue. Vipers require a hive. Lurkers technically don't require a hive, but in order for things to be really useful, they do. And Rogue is kind of stuck on 3-base economy. Scarlet, in the meantime, did finish up that 4th, and she's going 5 Dropper Lords? Wait, what? Are we trying to, I guess, drop Lings inside of the main base? I'm not sure what the Dropper Lords are for, but Nemetized Carapace is just about to finish. That's Overlord speed. I think we continue to dance. Yeah, there are a bunch of lurkers now for Rogue, but it's Lairtech lurkers. Lairtech lurker is really good against Zerglings, I guess, but it's not really able to... You can't really use these aggressively. Still, though, Rogue showing us that he is not somebody that's just gonna roll over and lose. Where are you guys going? You're not even... There's nothing inside of your bellies. I guess we're gonna run Zerglings into the base. Yeah, to be fair, if the Zerglings can kill some of the drones here, that would be big. If they can kill the static defense or the lair itself, that would be big. Infestation Pit is gonna be there. Yeah, Dropper Lords in general, very popular in Zerg versus Protoss with, like, all-ins. We see them every once in a while for, like, late-game ZVT, I guess, in combination with Nidus Worms. In Zerg versus Zerg, extremely rare. So they have 8 Zergling slots each. It's basically a private jet for Zerglings. It's kind of nice. No detection over here. Actually, I would love to see an Overseer in the mix as well to potentially kill a bunch of those Lurkers. Lurkers are really expensive. Even though we've had very different paths, both players get a hive right around the same time. And here's indeed the Ling drop going into the main. They're going to be dropped off into the corner. That's Zerg in the corner. Sorry. And this is going to be quite scary. Yeah. Mutas join in again. Spore Crawlers die in just about a heartbeat. Honestly, the hive is going to die. Ooh. Scarlet. Okay. Wait. So Scarlet just dominated Ryung and is now proceeding to likewise also destroy Rogue. I mean, Rogue is not out of this game yet, but things are looking rather dire. The problem is you can't really do anything with this Zerg army in red without Hive upgrades. Like, you need Lurker upgrades. You need Vipers preferably as well. And since none of those things are available, and since we have to start again with a lair, what do? Well, you can always hope, I guess, that your opponent accidentally sends all the mutas in. Maybe doesn't pay attention. I think actually going for a fungal growth or two would be really nice. We still have an infestation pit, so getting a few fungals down would be sick. Now there is an overseer in the mix, though, and those very expensive lurkers, 150 minerals and gas each, they're getting destroyed. Damn. Impressive game. Honestly, an impressive game right here by Scarlet. GG. Alrighty. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Potato Citadel. I think we're gonna have to switch up strategies a little bit, Rogue. Yeah. It's one of the big downsides of opening up with a triple hatch build as a Zerg player in this matchup. Like, it feels like you are the more greedy player, and usually greed is quite good in a game of StarCraft 2, but if your opponent is not fighting greed with greed, and they instead decide to fight it with like a quick lair, attack, and all the rest of it, and they go for a delayed link speed, and that Spire flies at like 3 something, things do become very sketchy. Hatchery first yet again, though. Potato Citadel is a pretty large map. It does take a while for the units to get across. Although, obviously, this is still a matchup with loads of cheese. Very few Zerg players are lactose intolerant. Although I know plenty of people that will still eat plenty of cheese despite being lactose intolerant, so who knows. Are we gonna see an Overlord kiss in the middle of the map? Oh! Oh! Well... kind of. Maybe it's a cultural thing for Overlords, I don't know. Maybe that's just how they do it. Yeah, it was more like a peck on the cheek. They rubbed cheeks. Well, that sounds weird. Anyways, hatch gas pool here from the both of them. And I'm expecting we're gonna be seeing link speed for at least Rogue. The question is, will Scarlet also go into the Zergling speed? She's checking if there's a proxy hatchery. They actually, Scarlet and Rogue famously played a series in the GSL Code S many years ago at this point, where Scarlet went for, oh, what was it again? I think it was a 12 pool into like a 15 hatch or something odd along those lines. And the way that the map was laid out at the time was that the exact timing of the hatchery she went for, it looked identical to a normal hatchery first build order, but of course, she had already made a spawning pool. So Rogue ended up getting cheesed a bunch of times in a row, and even though Scarlet was the underdog in that particular series, she ended up winning very dominantly, and I think in total in about 8 minutes time. Like, the entire series was over extremely quickly. Anyways, this time around, she does just fight this in a very normal way. Hatchery first yet again. But then also into a quick third hatchery. No skipping on the link speed this time around. Baneling Nest on the back of it too. Okay. Baneling Nest 2 here for Rogue. So apparently if Rogue sees that the opponent is going for a 2-base opener, he goes for an Evo Chamber. Since this is indeed a fast third, we spent the gas onto a Baneling Nest. Okay. What about the Zerglings over here? It's not a big commitment. This is when you play Zergling Chicken in this matchup. Like, if you see your opponent making a lot of links, and you can see those on the minimap as they come across, you kind of have to react with a similar number of links. But obviously, if you are the one reacting, it means that you've probably been spending your resources on drones before that, so you can kind of drone a little bit harder than the opponent if you are playing defensively. The problem is if you mess up defensively, then suddenly there's banelings in your mineral line, or Zerglings running around and killing queens. So you can't really cut it too close. Lair on the back of this, extra gases as well. Evo Chamber is probably going to be followed here in just a moment. For the time being, though, it's just a good old Roach Warren. Roach Warren likewise as well on the other side of the map. Rogue not yet opting to go for the lair. It's a bit weird to me that Rogue is not being more aggressive with these links. I think maybe we have one of those situations where Rogue is under the assumption that maybe he's like the better player across the board right now. So he's playing this a bit overly safe. Usually the player with the bigger Zergling numbers will go across the map to force the opponent to respond with more Zerglings too. Because if your opponent is making links, it means that they're not making drones. So it's a bit weird to have like a bunch more links than your opponent, like twice the number. Obviously the number is relatively low, but it's a bit weird to just use them fully defensively and scout for any sort of shenanigans. Now, one Baneling is gonna do nothing. It's just gonna bruise him a little bit. Oh, well. Oh, one Zergling! Couple more links going in. Scarlet is having fun. Roaches in the meantime are coming. We don't have an Evo chamber, by the way. Ah, it's because we're once more going Spire. Spire as well on the other side of the map, though. A Rogue is gonna be going for a bit of a MUTA war. The problem is that neither of them here are aware of that fact. I like this spot better, though, for Scarlet, just across the board. It's just a nicer position to be in. We also do have Roach speed together with +1 missile here for Rogue. Differences are, of course, not very big here so far, but it's not a... Yeah, it's not a bad position here for Scarlet by any stretch. She's going for a faster 4th. There will be one as well for Rogue here in just a moment. Okay, so MUTA wars are weird, right? We are going to see the Roaches go across the map. This is mostly here to force out more Roach production on the side of Rogue. No +1 missile available, though, as we do have once more a bunch of the Roaches and the Banelings fighting the mineral lines themselves. And this is really good. Now Mutas are coming. Now, MUTA wars are weird. Because in MUTA wars, the player with more Mutas will pretty much always win. Oh, this is a disaster for Rogue. He's spending all of his gas right now on Roaches to try and hold on against this. Loses 14 drones in the process. And now he's going to see that the opponent is going for the same unit composition as him. But, obviously, they're already out. And Scarlet's economy has not been hurt at all. In MUTA wars, though, it's extremely obvious. Like, if you have, like, 20 Mutas going up against 15, the player with 20 Mutas will win that fight with, like, 18 Mutas left alive. It's that extreme. Rogue sees it right now and immediately decides to tap out. That's the reason why. GG. One more? Yeah, let's do one more. Spotting right here in the bottom left. Playing in blue. Again, another best of 3 from the same group stage. We have none other than Scarlet. Who would have guessed? Right over here in the upper right, playing with the red Protoss pieces. So we've had a Terran, we've had a Zerg, now we have a Protoss. We're looking inside of the main base of Nightmare. Now, Nightmare has been playing some very impressive StarCraft as of late. Consistency seems to be a bit of a problem. Some games look phenomenal, and then the next, yeah, not so much. But there's no denying that Nightmare has been on the up and up. And normally, I would probably consider him a favorite in this type of matchup. But Scarlet clearly has been putting in the work. I am very impressed, honestly. It's good to see. Now, obviously, the 3 different matchups do play out very differently. Zerg versus Protoss is a gigantic skill check for like the first 7 minutes of the game or so. Immediately, Nightmare begins the bullying with the probe. Trying to steal minerals, trying to disrupt the mining a little bit, and obviously this is going to get followed by Adepts. It's going to get followed by Oracles. It's going to get followed by Stalkers in like a regular game. But then furthermore, there's obviously a lot of different flavors of Protoss pushes. Difficult to really judge exactly what's coming your way, and it's all happening in real time. Now, all of it is defendable. We have seen that from the absolute top-tier Zergs. Consistently are they able to figure out what the opponent is going for, and then they counter it pretty much well, correctly in the first 7-8 minutes or so of the game perfectly every time, but it's so easy for things to go horribly wrong. So let's see. I guess this is like one of those matchups where you can't really coast. Like if you've been good at the game once upon a time, right? Like if you say you were really good at StarCraft 2 years ago, if you haven't played any Zerg versus Protoss since then and you decide to give it a shot, Protoss are going to destroy you. They're going to just own you. It's not even going to look pretty. Mechanically, you may not have any issues, but strategically, it is something that has rapidly developed. So let's see. So far, though, I gotta say, Scarlett seems like she's been practicing a lot. At least in the games that we watched so far, it was all smooth sailing. Didn't really detect a whole lot of weirdness, especially that MUTA opener in Game 1 of the Zerg vs. Zerg. That was only something that's possible on the new patch. Not really something you can do on the old patch, because the Spire used to be more expensive and all the timings are kind of out of whack. You lose to a lot of different pushes if you go for that build and the opponent decides to be aggressive. So, yeah, she's been putting in the work. Okay. Stargate opener here. No surprise. Third hatchery begins as well. Oracle first here for Nightmare. Okay. Ooh, never mind. Oracle first, cancelled into a Void Ray. Now, this is one of those things that just does make the game a little bit more tricky. How do you now figure out what Protoss is building? Because this Overlord is going to die, and it's going to see what it's going to die to. Obviously, there's a Stargate, but what's the follow-up going to be? Is it going to be 2 base carriers? Is it going to be 3 Oracles on the back of it? Is it going to be multiple Void Rays? Well, Scarlet looks like she is. Sorry, that's so stupid. Void Ray didn't put on his glasses yet. The comedic timing of a Void Ray there was excellent. You love to see it. Yeah, a little bit of Void Ray deadpan humor is a beautiful thing. All right, it's gonna be an Oracle on the back of it. Scarlet did see, though. She saw the little cyan blob right over there inside of that thing. Still, the Adept swoop by. 3 drones is good. Yeah, 3 drones is good. 4 drones is amazing. Got ourselves a Twilight Council. No Forge next to it, but it doesn't mean that we're gonna skip out on, for example, Blink. But I wouldn't mind seeing... Okay. Oh, what? Dude, Nightmare is a bit indecisive. He queued up a Forge there, cancelled it, went for 2 gates instead. I wouldn't mind seeing a... Now we go for a Forge anyways. I wouldn't mind seeing Glaive to Depths, but I guess it's not going to be the case. Yeah, good old Blink. So, effectively the most conventional way to start things off here for Protoss. There is an Oracle zapping around. Void Ray here is trying to kill whatever it can hit. Anything the beam can touch will be Protoss. It's the alternative version of the Lion King, I guess. Oh, I would love to see a Protoss-themed Lion King. That'd be sick. A Dark Templar kicking a High Templar off a cliff. Yo! Tassadar gets to be Mufasa, I guess? Dude, this sounds like a banger. Sorry, I'm onto something here. Somebody call up Disney. I feel like I've got $1 billion right here. Anyways, Blink indeed is going to finish up eventually. A stampede of Ultras going in through the cliffs. Spire, though. So, apparently Mutas is what Scarlet is indeed enjoying. She couldn't really do this so much against the Terran that we saw. The style that Ryung was going for. Technically you can play Mutas against it, but it's an awkward transition. Mutas, though, in ZVZ. Mutas apparently as well in ZVP. Who gets to be Rafiki? That's the question. Selendis as Nala makes sense. Well, I got a lot of questions here. Anyways, ooh, the Oracle does die, and the Zerglings are going to town. I thought Scarlet wanted to hold off on the engagement for a little bit. Until +1 melee is done. 4th Nexus though on the back of this. And I guess if you see an opportunity to engage against the Stalkers, you may as well. +1 melee now is finished. Mutas are coming as well. Zerglings are all over the 4th Nexus. Scarlet decides to target the pylons and then the base. Very confident play. Storm on the back of this too. But Nightmare certainly just got hit in the mouth a bunch of times. Which is not good. And yet again, right? As soon as you give up on the pressure, the creep starts spreading around. Now, Mutaling is a very APM heavy composition. Creep spread? What the heck? 1100 average? There's something bugged about that. There's no way that she's pressing 20 buttons a second. Either way, this is one of those unit compositions, one of those playstyles where the sky really is the limit. Storm over here would be nice. It's done right now. Zerglings, though, run away. 4th Nexus in the middle of the map yet again. Looks like the Void Ray is going to die. We need to get those storms down. Okay, we get a storm eventually, but the reach right there from those Templar couldn't quite hit or above that pylon here to the left of it. Already, though, a new base is coming up. Creep is moving forward yet again. And this can be just so overwhelming here as Protoss. Like, you're not losing necessarily, but you're also not gaining much. We've gone from Protoss having full map control, and basically all of it defended very well, to, yeah, Zerg now striking back. How about Raynor as Timon and then Tygas as Pumbaa? It'd be fun. There's a lot of options available, really. Anyways. Additional photon cannons coming up to try and really properly secure this 4th. Storm? Ooh, ooh, storm, 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 but the Templar are gone. They decide to morph into Archons, man. This is dangerous. Scarlet playing with fire. Yeah, and this may have been a little overly ambitious. 10 Mutas died. Honestly, not the end of the world. But I think right now, Nightmare is gonna get a moment to catch his breath. Okay, and we celebrate by going into a Fleet Beacon and 2 additional Stargates. Mutas, though, of course, have that rapid regeneration passive. They regenerate HP faster than anything else. And they're already back for more. If you don't kill them, they'll be back to full HP very rapidly. Ooh, storming your own mineral line is a questionable choice. Zergling run by again, attempted up north. Base in the far top left has been taken. A rich Vespian gas geyser is being mined in the middle of the map, really to just double down on the mutalisk aggression. Scarlet now gets us around in the middle of the map, and this 4th base is in a world of trouble. Nightmare forced to split up the units to try and deal with the mutas in different locations at once. That's the point that Scarlet decides to pull all of the troops in one clump together in the middle, and then, well, suddenly we have this engagement over here. All of the High Templar are gone. Phoenix production has begun, but they're not really out yet in big enough numbers. And we have more and more mutalisks hitting the battlefield. Scarlet is dominating. She's now doubling the opponent's supply. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on a Ruby Rock. Now, Scarlet has been on an absolute tear so far. Hatchery first on the low ground. Apparently, we have another plan to build another hatchery, but it's gonna be on the opponent's side of the map. Still, though. Oh, this is still blocked! Ah, no, Nightmare! You obviously need to be able to plant a gigantic structure right over here, and this is still a block. Yeah, Nightmare thought that this was already solved. But apparently, we are feeling so confident that we just go into... jerk mode. Yeah, that's effectively what we do. Apparently, when you've been a prick to your opponent for... You just start taking control of the situation right away. Very important. Try to be as annoying to your Protoss opponent as you can possibly be. Now, of course, Protoss in general is a very build order dependent race, more so than the others. Timing attacks are absolutely critical. And now everything you do is going to be different. Like, if you want to go for a big aggressive push, right? If you want to go for like an all-in, your timings are going to be completely out of whack. Now, we do have still a probe out onto the map. I'm not exactly sure what we can do with it. Are we going to proxy? Are we going to fight fire with fire? Because this is looking... It's looking suspicious, okay? If I was a detective, I would say that this behavior is odd. At the very least, it needs to be taken into consideration. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe if Sherlock was casting this game, he could figure it out. Okay, finally. Yep, so we fight fire with fire. This is no longer going to be an expansion from the Protoss. Zerg, though, is going to get a free scout of the main base, which will be kind of sweet. Normally, you expect some sort of Stargate or whatever, but instead it's a Twilight Council now. That means that Spore Crawlers can likely be skipped. The only real reason right now to go for Spores is to expect and maybe counter any sort of like Dark Templar follow-up, but Dark Templar wouldn't be hitting the battlefield until like 4.5 minutes or so at soonest, I think, from here. Instead, it's Glaive to Depths. Glaive to Depths can be countered by Pure Ling. We did have an Overlord over here too, by the way, which is kind of rude. Scarlet got the follow-up scout sorted. This is good, though, here for Nightmare. Getting a bunch of Adepts in the main base. Obviously, this is a low eco game for both players. 3 drones is amazing. 4 is fantastic. The proxy, by the way, not scouted. Scarlet just barely does not see it. Whew. Okay. Honestly, getting that scouted right now would be a disaster. Lynx are still dancing in the natural, though. Okay. So this now has turned into basically just a 3-gate all-in on one base. We've gone all the way back to like 2010, with the only difference being that Adepts weren't in the game back then. But we used to see one base all-ins all the time. There is going to be an expansion on the back of it. How scary is this truly, though? Like, if you have 3-gate Adept, how much damage can it really deal? I'm not convinced that it's really that terrifying at all. You kind of need to have like a ball of Adepts, right? Like, you need like a bunch of them, so they can't really be surrounded very easily. But yeah, now this gets scouted. It's still a healthy number. 11 of them in total. There's already 50 Zerglings out. Now there's going to be 70 about. And I think as long as Scarlet gets us around on those units, unless they get into the mineral line, I think that would be problematic. Mineral line is out of reach. It's out of reach. Perfect surround. Yeah, I don't think you can really hope for much more. Maybe if he could have wedged those Adepts inside of the mineral line and reduced the surface area, but that was a disaster of an engagement for Nightmare. Now the proxy gate is gonna go down. That moment when your Adept reach is just a little bit too short. You do it in 2 phases. You can't really shade from like the opponent's third base into the main base's mineral line. Doesn't make any sense. Usually you see the Adepts shading from one base to the next to the next. Doing it in one jump like that is too greedy. Nightmare immediately pays the price. Now there is an expansion that Overlord, indeed, it does scout it. So we actually just start making workers now. In a very weird way, this game is... yeah, almost reset with a, maybe like a 70-30 advantage here for Zerg. But there is a low ground expansion for Nightmare. And it's a difficult read right now for Scarlet, right? Like, yeah, there is a Nexus, but does it mean that we're not gonna be following this up with any real aggression now? Do we just go into a third? Now, seeing a probe trying to make a move to the third Nexus location is an interesting one. There is about a 0% chance here that Nightmare actually believes he can take a third. There's no way. No. What? But you just lost a fight. I think it's just scouting. No, he's actually just faking it. Okay. So when one all-in fails, you know what you can do? You can do a second all-in. He's actually just trying to do another gateway proxy. So we've turned a 3-gate all-in into what is gonna be like a 7 or maybe an 8-gate all-in. This is a very hero-esque play though, right? Like, I wanna doubt it, but I have seen Hero win tournaments with stranger build orders over the last few months. This is basically the first wave going horribly wrong, so we go for another wave that is identical to the first one, and then suddenly it does have to work. Scarlett, though, obviously knows that the opponent is stuck on 2 bases. And on 2-base economy, you can only have 44 workers in total efficiently. So she set up 50 or so drones. She's actually making 53. It's a bit 50. Stop! We need to stop, dude. We need to stop making the drones. We can't make more. Okay, well, the follow-up will get scouted. Banelings are gonna get morphed in, and obviously Banelings are really good against units that tend to clump together. But this is still a very scary push here from Nightmare. It kind of depends on the shade. If we try to shade again into the opponent's natural, if Nightmare wants to go straight into the main, that would be massively problematic. What about the Banelings themselves, though? Oof, okay. It's a bit disjointed yet again. We do have a Roach Warren as well on the back of this, which is nice. More Banelings on the ramp right now. Fair enough. This 4th hatchery is bait. Zero reason to attack this Nightmare. Yeah, we should not be attacking this. Because you're all in. Killing the opponent's 4th base is not even remotely enough. This is dangerous. This is really dangerous. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, look away, Protoss players. Look away. Zork players, stop salivating. Yeah. Yeah, no, stop it. Come on. It's disgusting. You're drooling all over yourself. This is an absolute disaster for Nightmare. It's a good attempt. We do have the sentry showing up as well, by the way. Nightmare does not use the brake in his car, okay? He maybe lets his foot off the gas a little bit. But it's basically Mario Kart. You never brake. You just keep going and going and going and going. There is no stopping any of this. And you know what? The trades are not that bad. It's kind of, you know, like if you look at the resources lost, it's not the end of the world. Because obviously Banelings and Lings are pretty terrible traits here against Glaive to Depths. Pretty much no matter what. Problem is, now we're nearly 10 minutes in, and the base of the main base of Protoss is gonna run dry. Yeah, and I think right now, it is basically game over. So even though it feels a little silly to go for the follow-up push after your opponent has already countered your first one, and then go for an identical follow-up yet again, it is awfully close to still working out. Okay, I wasn't sure what to expect here from Scarlett going into these 3 best of 3s, but I figured it would be fun to go ahead and have a look. But Scarlett just demolished a Terran, a Zerg, and then also a Protoss very confidently. Not bad.